Hi everyone and welcome to Crochet Rocks. My name's Tracy and I'm going to show you how to make this Christmas stocking. I've been promising this for a little while. Now this one I've made with two fluffy type yarns. They're chunky. This is James C. Brett's Flutterby, this pink, and this white one is the King Cole Yummy yarn. So I don't think this one really needs a great deal of decoration. I was just going to maybe put a name on it, and then that will be all. And I also need to make the little tab to hang it if you're going to hang it. I don't hang mine because I think it makes them out of shape, but I particularly like close crochet. I don't like many holes, especially when you're doing something like a Christmas stocking that you don't want things poking through. Now obviously something like a pencil will still poke through this, but it's not like a massive gaping hole like some of them. So I'm going to show you how to make this, but I'm not going to use this kind of yarn. I'm going to make it with just ordinary chunky. Now this one is King Cole Big Value Chunky. It's one of my favourite chunky yarns. It's lovely and soft. I love the colour and I love the texture and the way it crochets. So I'm going to be using that, but any chunky will do. Now you'll notice on this one that I made the heel and the toe and the top a different colour. Well, on this one the heel and the toe are going to be the same colour. I'm just going to make it red, but I will be putting a different colour on the top. Now when I've made my tops in the past, I've just done this part a different colour. And you see the join, which I'm really not keen on. So I'm going to do double the length of the top so that when you turn it over, you just see the colour, which I like a lot better. So I'm going to use a fleecy type yarn for the top. I've got a robin fleece, which I'll use for that. But I don't really want to make the heel and the toe out of that. And I've left my white at home, which is the only other colour that I would have made my heel and toe to match. So I'm going to do it all one colour anyway. You can do it striped, you can do it all one colour, you can do a couple of rows, alternate colours, anything you want really. The world's your oyster when it comes to colours. But I'm just going to do it a traditional Christmassy red for this particular tutorial. Now I've had to hunt high and low because I'm using a 6mm crochet hook, and I knew I had a couple somewhere, but the one that I use all the time is red, and that would have looked really difficult to show up on this particular tutorial. So I'm so glad that I managed to find another 6mm crochet hook. Also going to use a darning needle and a pair of scissors. And I'm going to do this in approximately 3 parts. There may be a 4th part. I'm going to do it so that this particular tutorial will take you up to the heel. Then the next tutorial will be from the heel all the way up, including the top. And then the subsequent ones will be decorations should you want to put them on. So I'm going to do this number 1 tutorial will be up to the heel part, and then look out for part 2. So I'm going to pause the video while I get ready, and do excuse the voice. I've still got that little bit of a tickle and croaky voice, but there's not really anything I can do. It's getting better, but I didn't want to wait any longer because Christmas is coming. It's not waiting for me. So bear with me just 1 second while I get everything together. Okay, so I've got all my bits together. I've got myself a drink just in case I get another attack of the croakies. And I'm going to just get some yarn out. Bear with me a mo. Just need to pull out a fair bit. Right, now whether I'm making it out of this fleecy type yarn or whether I'm making it out of just regular kind of chunky, I don't change what I'm doing. I do exactly the same amount of chain. I leave a long tail because there is a little join to close, but that's fine. You just need to make a slip knot in any way that you prefer. And we're going to do a total of 45 chain. Mustn't knock my water over, nearly did. Would have been a disaster. So 45 chain, and just to recap, chain is over and through the loop, yarn over and through the loop, yarn over and through the loop. So we're going to do 45 chains. I'm going to put this video on hold, and I'll meet up with you again once I've done 45. Okay, so I now have 45 chain, and I'm going to be doing, referring to UK terms in this video, but I'll let you know what the US equivalent are. So I'm going to be working in half treble crochet, which is a half double in the US. And we're going to not count the first chain on our hook. This, our loop doesn't count. This is our first chain, and we're going to do a half treble into that second chain along. So we yarn over and we put our yarn through the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we have 3 on our hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. That's a half treble in UK terms, or a half double in the US. We're going to do 1 in every chain along. So that's yarn over, into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. So we're going to continue. I just hold it in my little finger there, and it makes it easier for me to see where I'm going. Just continue all the way along until we get to the last one. And we should have 44 half trebles or half doubles, depending on which side of the pond you are. So I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to meet you once we get to our last chain. Okay, so I'm at my last stitch. That one there is just my slip knot. So now I'm going to join it. And to do that, let's get hold of this and make sure that it's not twisted in any way. Bring it back on itself and slip stitch into my first stitch, which is there. Sometimes difficult to see. And I'm going to make a slip stitch into there and form a ring. That was a bit baggy, don't like that. Okay, just make sure that that is indeed my first stitch. It is. This stitch was baggy before, and now it's not. So I've slip stitched. Now that's been joined. Now this tail, I'm going to sew that together at the end. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just work in rows, not kind of in rounds where we're not chaining up. So I'm going to do 1 chain. Now the way I like to work is to hide as much as I can of my seam, and I'm going to try to show you my seam on here. It's very hidden, as you can see. Here it is. This is my seam. Now if you go into the alternate first, if the one that you're going into first is alternate, then it keeps it straighter. So in sometimes like one round you'll be going into the actual stitch that you've slip stitched into, and in the next round you'll go into the one next to it. And I'll show you how this works. So as long as you keep 45 stitches, keep a count. So it's just 1 half treble in each stitch. If you don't care about your seam, just do it whatever way you like. But I find this keeps your stitches, keeps your seam really nice and straight. So with this one, I've gone into that same stitch that I've slip stitched into. So I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to do 1 half treble in every stitch all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the start. Okay, I've almost round. That's my 43rd. Now it looks like you're going into this stitch here. It looks like the one you've come out of, but it's not. So that's my 44. And then you slip stitch into this one across here. Now we're going to chain 1. And instead of going into that stitch, I'm going to go into this one and do my first one in there. Go all the way around, counting 44 stitches. Now your 44th stitch will be over here, but when you pull this one, when you slip stitch into this stitch, it does pull it across, and it helps keep this straight. It doesn't look like it ought to work, but it does. And if you don't want to mess about with that, that's perfectly fine. But if you do, then just remember, for 1 row, you do your half treble into the same stitch that you have slip stitched into, and for the next row you do it in the one next to it, and then you just keep alternating and it pulls your rows straight. I don't know how, but you know, ours is not to reason why. When something works, it just works. So that's what I do. Anyway, I'm going to continue doing this, working in these rows and alternating, should I say. You don't have to do that. If you don't want to, you just carry on, but your seam will slant if you do that. Just be aware of that. So you're going to continue doing this until it measures 7.5 inches. I'll just finish this row with you and show you what I do when I get to the end. I'll pause the video and pick you up again once I get back here. Okay, so I'm almost back at the start, and I'm going to go into this stitch here, and that should be my 44th, and then I'm going to go into the first stitch and pull it across. And for some reason it works keeping the seam straight, which is good news. Now, I should have mentioned that for this project I've only ever used one ball of chunky yarn, but I always keep two just in case, and I've never done it before where the heel and the toe are the same colour. I've always changed it in one way or another, whether it's black or white or whatever colours I'm using. This is the first time, so I do have an extra ball just to be on the safe side, and of course whichever yarn you want to make your top with. I'm choosing to do it in a fluffy one, but you can use any yarn you like. You can keep it all one colour if you wanted to, but so keep on continuing in this way until this part measures 7.5 inches. It doesn't matter if it's slightly over, slightly under. You're going to add another couple of inches for the top in any case. So I'm going to pop this on to pause, and I will pick you up again once we've done enough for it to measure 7.5 inches. There we are. So I've measured this and it is 7.5 inches, which is great. And now all I'm going to do is join with the slip stitch as usual, and I'm going to end off. Always need a nice long tail for sewing in. Don't like those ends coming back, putting in an appearance. So now I'm going to put my seam in the middle, and as you can see it's kind of straight. It did deviate a little bit, but I think I got a tad confused when I was doing it. Sometimes certain colours make it harder to see, and I think bright red is one of them. But it's not too bad. It's a Christmas stocking. It's not a garment. It's not like we're going to be wearing it at all. So what we're doing now, we need 14 stitches, and I'm going to make it so that this is the centre. So I'm going to count back 7. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to pop my hook in, and I'm going to reattach. Now, if this was a different colour that you were using for your heel, you would be attaching that colour, but I'm just going with this. So now we're going to do 14 single crochets, which is a US term, double crochet in the UK. So we're going to do 14 all the way along. Going to work over that tail as well, so got 2 tails. I've been working over one already, I guess. Excuse me. I'll keep that one back now. I don't want it to be too fat. So I'm going to do 7 more. So there we are. Now, turn work this time, and we're going to decrease 1 stitch at each end of our work until we have just 4 stitches left. Just pulling some yarn out if you wonder where I've gone. So to do that, all I'm going to do is I'm not going to bother with turning chains. I'm going to go in, pull up a loop, into the next stitch, pull up a loop, and do 2 together. So then carry on to the end. I'm going to work over that tail as well, just to get rid of that one. Left the other one, didn't really matter too much, but the minimal amount of sewing is all right by me. Right, I'm getting up there now, so I've got 1, 2, 3, so there's my, I'm going to get rid of that tail because it's going to get confusing. So I'm just going to do these 2 together, so that's 1 there, 1 there, turn my work. And I'm going to continue decreasing 1 at each end until I only have 4 stitches. So I don't know if you want me to show you again. That's just 1 in there, 1 in there, bring them together and carry on until we've got 2 stitches remaining, and then stitch them together. You don't have to be absolutely perfect with everything that we do on this, because we just have to remember it's a Christmas stocking, we're not going to be wearing it. If it was a garment that we were wearing, then we'd worry a little bit more about what it looks like. But because it's only going to come out once a year, we want it to last, but we don't necessarily have to be that particular. So I'm going to carry on decreasing 1 at each end until I've just got the 4 stitches. I'm going to pop this on hold now, and I will pick you up again when we get there. Now I've decreased, and all I have left is my 4 top stitches. So now I'm going to increase 1 at each end until I have 14. So we kind of took them away and now we're putting them back. So we do 2 into the first one, and then 2 into the last one. Oops. And we're going to carry on doing that until we have all of our 14 stitches back. So I'm going to pop this on hold, and I will pick you up once I have got my full complement of 14 stitches. Okay, so this is my last row to increase 1 at each end. So it's 1. So that was 12. Don't count out loud because I know it puts some people off when you always find when I used to watch tutorials that whoever was counting was never counting at the same rate as me, and it would always put me off. So I'm going to leave a really ridiculously long thread and end off there. And the reason I'm leaving that thread is because I'm going to sew it and make a heel. So it is a different stitch, but then that adds to the charm of it. So I'm just going to pop this on hold while I get a drink of water, and hopefully it won't be so. That's better. Well, say that's better. I don't sound that much better, do I? It feels it. So I've got my darning needle, and I'm going to thread that. Hopefully quickly and not with too much hassle. Hey, I'm always amazed when it goes well on camera. I'm going to get my specs for this one. I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to sew this on the wrong side. So we turn it inside out, and all we do is we just attach it and sew up this outer edge. Like I said before, it's not a garment that's going to be worn, so it isn't as if we have to be absolutely spot on with our sewing. It's not going to be lumpy and annoy us or anything like that. So it's just so it's secured along this outer edge. Oh, nearly lost my needle. I think there's another one there. And because I don't want to end off, I'm just going to go all the way through. This is the wrong side, remember, so it's fine. Go all the way through, making sure it's nice and loose. It doesn't pull it tight and pucker it or anything. And now we're going to do the same along this edge. So we make sure we've got the corner to corner and just get this in the right spot. Get rid of that tail. Annoying. And just over sew. Over sew's fine. Try and get that bit there. That tail's going to get in the way, isn't it? I can snip that off because I've worked it in a couple of times. Ow, I think I snipped myself. That was lucky. At least it's red, so it wouldn't have noticed. Well, I did bleed. Never mind. Try not to snip yourself when you're snipping. So it's just a quick over sew all the way down. To the bottom. And then that's secure. And I'm going to end part 1 here because part 2 is going to be, and I'm just going to sew this end in to hide it. Excuse me. Go the other way. Oh, it's come out. I'll go one more time. This outer edge. Remember, that's the wrong side, so it won't be noticeable. I'll make too much of a bump though. Cut that off without chopping off my finger this time. Now, I need to pop that in the right way. So when we have, it will now look like this. I've got a fibre in my mouth. And now we're going to work on this part. I'll show you on this one. So it's now we're going to be working on this part here on part 2. So I'm going to end part 1 here and stop myself from bleeding and come back with part 2. So thank you for joining me so far. If you haven't already, don't forget to pop on that little subscribe button and the notification bell so that you'll be informed when there are new videos. And I will see you again in part 2. Thanks for watching.